I'd like to call this board meeting to order for December 14th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard,
Here.
Ms. Nazario,
Here.
Ms. Johnson, Mr. Sturgill here, Mr. Williams.
Here.
Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First recognition of visitors, seeing none. First hearing of the public. Do we have anyone from the public on the first hearing? Okay, I need a motion to suspend the order to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We'll be going into it for negotiations and litigation.
Do you want to do the 5-year forecast first, so he's gone, or do you want to go?
Well, we do have a 5-year forecast, and I thought we were going to do that under the
You're the boss, but-
report of the treasurers, but we can do that and then go into executive session if that's okay. Still got to suspend the order.
So motion to suspend the order?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
I did this wrong. Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill. Yes.
And we will suspend the order. We will get our 5-year forecast review, and then when we go into executive session, we'll recall after that.
And I'd like to thank the board for their flexibility here. We do have a guest speaker tonight, Ryan Gazzoni. I said it right, didn't I? I practiced.
Yes, that's
Thanks.
correct.
Appreciate it. And he's guest here. Obviously, Tia's not here, and she's going to miss a couple of meetings, but we want to make sure that the board and the community had the information. And Ryan's doing it because we have a new software system that I don't know how to work. So he's going to walk us through the 5-year forecast. And actually, I think as you'll see during the presentation, I got raving about the software and looking forward to learning how to use it. But it's very, very user-friendly and kind of walk us through exactly where we are. So Ryan, if I could just hand off. I know you got plans tonight, and I appreciate you being flexible with your schedule to help us out.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And so working with your superintendent and treasurer, I prepared a PowerPoint slide from the visuals in the software, but at any time, if you have questions, I can go into the software and show you some of the things the treasurer's office modeled in order to identify what's going on in your 5-year forecast. And so the first thing we're going to show, and feel free at any time to stop me if you have questions, is a simplified version of your forecast. In this simplified version, it's showing what your beginning cash balance is, and we're going to go into some very specific areas. But it's also showing your revenue for the district, your expenses, and then what's going on. Are you dipping into your savings, or does the district, do you have an operating surplus, do you have a balanced budget? For 2022, the district is projected to have an operating deficit of about $926,000. So that's going to slightly reduce your existing cash balance down to just under $25 million for 2022. Moving forward, that starts to ramp up your deficit spending because of projected increases in expenses until ultimately you are looking at a negative cash balance, basically gone through all of your savings by 2026. I know working with Tia in the treasurer's office that there was concern, well, how has the forecast changed? Because this obviously is a very different picture than what the school district saw in May. So this blue line here is representing your cash balance in this forecast. And this red line here is representing what was projected by the district in May. And the question is well, how from 22 to 23, why, number one, do we have a $25 million cash balance about at the end of 22, while in May we're projecting just a $10 million. And then how are we, instead of being out of cash in 2023 to the tune of almost $7 million, do we have still about a $25 million, just under a $25 million carryover? And so we're going to go through some of those questions. One of the things is working with a lot of districts in the state. This is the most difficult time for a district to do a 5-year forecast. Probably in the 18 years I've been doing forecast, you've had some significant changes. Most districts in the state have had significant changes, from changes in the state funding formula, to obviously the COVID shutdown, staffing shortages, and those are all creating much different forecasts for districts from what they had filed in May, because they were still going on the premise of the old state funding law that changed at the beginning of this fiscal year. So some of the things that we can discuss is, if you look here in blue, if I go back to that, this is what your forecast is currently projecting for revenue. So even though we're showing an increased cash balance, the district is actually looking at less revenue than they were projecting in May. For 2022, it's about $21 million less, $22 million less. And so why has that happened? And it's not all decreases in revenue. One thing is going through looking at your values. The district went through a change in property values this year. You are going to have some increases in tax revenue that you weren't anticipating in the May forecast. But in addition, due to the state of Ohio adopting this new funding formula, there's been changes to your state revenue projections we're going to talk about. And then also how tuition-related students are funded. So students that are attending non-district facilities, such as community schools, open enrollment out, those have significantly changed how your forecast is going to look and how the state's treating those. In addition, the students that are open enrolling into your district and scholarships. And then also student wellness funds. Previous to this, this state funding, that was a separate fund. Those funds have been brought back into the general fund, but your district has a cash balance still in that wellness fund that really it's going to take you to about 24, 25 to spend that money down. So that's another factor. And then finally, when you look at the district's forecast in May and you compare it to where the district actually ended the year in June, you came in about $2 million better, about 1.7% more revenue than you were anticipating in that forecast. So that also contributed to how is your cash balance changing in 22 and in 23. When we flip and now look at expenses, we can see not only is your revenue less, but your expenses are much less. A lot of this has to do with the change in the state funding formula and what happened, because you no longer have community school expenses, you no longer have open enrollment expenses, you no longer have scholarship expenses. In addition, you had numerous staff leave at the end of 2021 and beginning of 2022. And that resulted in cost savings because you hired a new staff in lower in the salary schedule compared to the staff that left. And then also another thing that's going on across the state is that you have a number of vacated positions that have not been filled. And so because those have not been filled yet, we're anticipating some of those will not be filled by the end of this year, but will be filled next year. That did create some cost savings, some temporary cost savings for 2022. The district also, your health insurance premiums, I believe the district was projecting an increase in May's forecast. And even though you had an increase at the beginning of this fiscal year, and coming in January, you're actually reducing, because of the health care reserves, you're reducing your premiums. That's going to impact the expenses for the district. You're actually going to save some money that was not anticipated. So that's not only reducing this year's, but future years going out, even though we have increases built in, it's going to be at a lower level than what you had in May. So that created some cost savings. And then finally, when you look at that May forecast and compared it where you actually ended the year for 2021, your expenses came in about 1% less, or $1.2 million. So when you look at your revenue was better off by just about $2 million. Your expenses were less by about 1.2. So you had about $3.2 million more in cash at the end of 21 than that May forecast had projected. That then compounds in 22 and 23 to create some additional cash revenue for the district. So that's a small portion of why you have such a drastic change. The thing that I really want to concentrate some time on is looking at what's happened with your state funding, because that is the majority of what's happened from your May forecast till now. And if we look here, the district had three buckets of revenue. You had unrestricted, which is basically money coming from the state that you choose how you want to spend it, goes in the general operating fund, as well as your restricted funding. And that's for things that was like career tech, economically disadvantaged. That went in there. And then you had a little bit of money, about $400,000 in open enrollment. So in total, these three categories equaled about $92 million, $92.4 million. Well, this year, because of change in the state funding formula, your unrestricted now has gone down. So it's gone from 83 million, 83.4 million, down to about 56 million. And that's because all of the students that were going to community schools, open enrollment out, and scholarships, you're not getting funding for them anymore. You're not paying for them, but you're not getting funding either. And then in addition, your restricted actually went up a little bit because of the wellness funds actually going in there, and being part of the general fund now. So this explains why your revenue actually decreased by $26.7 million compared to where you were last year. So that's part of the reasons why we're seeing your revenue going down. On the flip side, though, is your expenses. Last year, the district had just over $6 million in open enrollment expenses. So resident students attending another school district, public school district. You had over $19 million in community school expenses. So you're writing checks for that. That was an increasing cost to the district. You had three different forms of autism. You had your scholarships. You had autism scholarship, Ed Choice scholarship, and Peterson scholarship. In total, you're writing checks for about $32 million for resident students to attend non-resident facilities. Those are no longer part of your budget. You're no longer charged for those. Not getting the revenue, but you're also not charged. As a result, your forecast is $5 million, $5.3 million better off your cash balance this year. And then that goes into next year as well, each year moving forward, because you don't have those expenses. We also are projecting some increases in state funding as you move into 2023. So this had a significant impact on your forecast. Number one, you had spent $32 million in tuition costs last year, and there was some inflationary growth built in there because usually those tuition costs were increasing. So not even taking that into consideration, you have $5.3 million in savings, basically, that increased your cash balance for this year, additional $5.3 million or more for next year. Now, the new state funding formula is based off kids that come to your district, the kids that you're educating in the year in which you're educating them. And that's a complete change from what's been historically. For the last couple of years, there wasn't a funding formula in place. But before that, you'd either have a 3-year average or you'd get funded based off the kids that attended there last year. You're getting funded based on the kids that are coming through the doors this year. And as you can see, this is also one of the first years in recent history where you had an increase in enrollment. So last year, the district had about 5,500 students that were district educated, enrolled in district. And this year, you're just barely 4 students under 6,000. So you're almost back to your 2019 levels. This is going to be very important moving forward based on this new funding formula, because we are projecting a decrease right now, not at the level, that you've seen from 2018 to 2021, but based off your historic numbers, we are showing that by 2026, you'll have gone down about 400 students. If the district sees an increase in enrollment, you could see more state funding coming in. Compared to what we're projecting here. If you don't decrease as much, you'll have more state funding coming in. If this line moving forward follows what you saw from 18 to 21, then you're going to have less state funding coming in. It's going to affect your forecast. So there's just some things to take into consideration moving forward because of the times that we're in, last 2 years dealing with COVID and how it's affected schools, and then seeing a change or reverse in your enrollment this year. We still don't have a lot of concrete information to know how it's going to affect you in 23, 24, because we haven't gone through something like this. Under this new state funding formula, every district's funding is different per student. It's based off of, there's a lot of different calculations that go into place to tell you, based on your enrollment, based on your local economics, those property tax wealth and income wealth. And then based on the number of students you have, it's calculating for your district that the total base cost per pupil funding level is $7,356, and the state's picking up the majority of that at $5,666. So this is the amount that you get to the state from the state. In orange here, this is the amount that the state says this is the local district's portion of the general fund to help pay for student education. So just want to provide you with a recap of what this new state funding looks like. And once again, this has had a drastic impact on your forecast. When we look then at what happened with salary and benefits, the May forecast had you in 2022 at about $79 million for combined salary and benefits. We have you coming in about $76 million. And then next year, the May forecast had you growing to about $80 million, almost $80.5 million. and we have you at 78 million. So why is there a change in the number of what we're projecting for salary and benefits over these 2 years? Well, number one, we're projecting you had about $827,000 in savings because of staff leaving and bringing staff lower in the salary schedule. That's going to affect this year, and there's going to be an additional $410,000 next year. So combined over the 2 years, you're saving about a little bit over 1.2 million. You also had a temporary reduction of about 325,000 because of staff positions you can't fill right now. You can't find people to fill them. And so we anticipate by next year those will be filled, but we don't have those being filled in the current year based off of the vacancies you have. So that explains a portion of this difference here. The other big portion is what we talked about before. You're going to save in 2022 compared to what you had in the May forecast about $1.3 million. And that's combined. Majority of that's because your health insurance benefits costs are going down in January. So you had a 5% increase, I believe, and they're going down by a little bit over 7% in January. And then also you had some savings because of the staffing savings, your salary related fringe benefits, you're having savings as well. Next year, that grows to a savings of about 1.8 million. So two different things that help contribute to why are your salary and benefits different than what you had projected in May. Coupled with that, with the changes in purchase services, mainly due to tuition, that makes up the majority of the differences of what you're seeing in your expenses. The one thing to take into consideration is the district is still deficit spending. Even though this is this forecast is a improvement from where you were in May. Last year, you did not have an operating deficit. You had an operating surplus of 2.2 million. You can see how this grows. We saw that in the first forecast. What's important to note there is how that impacts your cash balance. So obviously, it has a big negative impact on your cash balance because you are basically spending more than you're bringing in revenue each year. So you have to dip into the savings, your cash balance each year. If you were to look at an estimation of how does that affect if we were to go for a levy, because I know you guys were on the ballot, and you made no changes to your expenses, you would need to pass a levy in 2022 of between 8.18 mils and 13 mils to get you to have solvency through 2028. If you were to wait till 2023, you're looking between the 13.6 and almost a 17 mil levy to get you to solvency for basically 5 years. So even though the district's in a much better position than they were in May financially, you still have a need to either raise money through a levy or reduce expenses in order to offset a future negative cash balance within the next 5 years. So with that, I'll open up to any questions you have, anything specific I can try and answer for you, or any other information I didn't go over I can show you.
Any questions from the board? Is all clear? Anything from?
Nope, I'm good.
Ryan, thank you so much for doing this with us tonight. And I too really enjoy the software and the simplicity that's come with learning this new forecast that we're using in your software. So again, you have a great holiday. And again, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You guys have a great night as well.
All right.
See you.
Thank you. I need a motion to go into executive session since we've already suspended the order under litigation and negotiations.
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson. Yes. Mr. Sturgill, yes.
We'll be going into executive session. We shouldn't be very long, but we will be probably taking votes when we come out. So we'll be back as soon as
I thank the
possible.
board again for your flexibility there. Ryan was pinch hitting for us and had some plans tonight.
Guys, we need a motion to come out of executive session.
Is your mic on?
Need a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Roll call.
We gotta have a time on that.
6:04.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes.
All right, we're back out of executive session. Next item of business is approval of minutes from our December the 8th meeting. Need a motion for that?
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Johnson. Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes. Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any old business? Seeing none. Recommendation of the treasurer. Are they still online?
No, he was, again, his only role today was to walk through the 5-year forecast because no one else does that use software.
I thought Julie was online, wasn't she? Nobody? Okay. So if there's,
Would you like me to jump in?
gotcha. Need to approve from 801 to
I
805?
would like the board to consider for approval, items 8.01 to 8.05, recommendations from the treasurer.
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes.
I believe that's it.
Comes to me.
Yes, sir. Recommendations from our CEO superintendent.
Righty, thank you. And again, I'd like to welcome our visitors from the city. And as most of you know, we've been working on a plan for playing baseball and softball for about 6 years that I can remember. And we've had a lot of conversations in public, a lot of conversations in private. And what I'd like to do is invite Mary, Lori, you guys doing the key speaking, to discuss a recommendation that I'm making to the board on baseball, softball fields in a partnership with the city.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity just to present what we've worked on for quite
Can
a
you
while.
close to the mic, Mary, please?
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
That we've worked on for quite a while in a collaboration between the Lorain City Schools and the City of Lorain. This collaborative agreement would add and upgrade fields at Campana Park. The collaboration would be beneficial to our students, to our community, as well as outside communities. The district's part of the agreement would include investing in upgrades to the varsity field at the Pike Yard, as well as creating from, if you will, from the ground up, a softball field. I'm gonna try and do my Vanna interpretation here. And I don't know how much of this you can see, but what we're looking at from the varsity field that's already existing, we would be removing an old deck. We would do some bullpen work. We would remove the old ticket booths, replace with new ones, and have kind of a turnstile area coming in. Rehabbing existing, the existing concession stands, building a new storage facility with some restrooms and another concession stand. In trying to keep along with Title IX and having like-for-like facilities, we would create a new softball field that would include dugouts, fencing, backstop, new bleachers, new lighting, and then, of course, we would have new sidewalks that would go to the concession stands there. The city will, the dollars that we invest into this collaboration and into the work into Campana Park, Pipe Yards, the city is going to match the funds that we put into the field to build up the remaining part of Campana Park. And I'll let Lori talk about that a little bit.
With the city funds, we will be concentrating on the other side of the park where all the small fields are, so that we can start building baseball in the city of Lorain from age 5 up through 14. And there will be 7 fields over there. And this, I don't know how much you can see, but it would show you, these are all the fields that, some are there, we would totally rehab them and make them new. A new concession restroom building, a new playground building, but we would also be adding soccer fields to this. Right now, there is basically nowhere for any soccer organization to play soccer in the city of Lorain. So we would be adding those. And then we will also be adding all new parking lots and paving the parking lots, walkways, everything to enhance what the schools would be investing in on this site. So it will become a state-of-the-art facility all the way around. So yes, the city, per the agreement, would match the schools dollar for dollar. The city will then be maintaining the fields, and they will be maintained by the city. And we'll hire a crew that will just work at these fields from March, April through October. I really think it could be a really good thing for the schools and for the city. Our goal is the money we make holding tournaments on this part, which this summer will be the first time an organization that does baseball tournaments for youth groups, ages 9 to 14, has approached us, and they've already booked every weekend from April through July at the fields without us even having done anything yet. All that money that we make off those tournaments will be turned around and reinvested into the park. And we'll do that each year so that the park stays maintained and doesn't fall under disrepair. And I don't know the last time anybody's been at Campana Park. On the Pipe Yard side, in the last 2 years, we've put about $100,000 in this side already. And then, you know, the next thing we would look to, if this all works, is find somewhere on the facility, maybe we could even get esports going over there. We're starting our first pilot program at Boys and Girls Club. We know if that works, we want to venture out. This would be a great place to do it.
Thank you.
Questions from the board? Actually, my first question, if you don't mind, Mr. President.
Please.
If I know that we're maybe voting tonight, and I know that City Council is scheduled to vote on this on the 20th, is that correct?
Correct.
And if both those votes go in a positive way, then, both affirm, what's the timeline in terms for completion?
In the agreement, it says all the upgrades on the city's part have to be completed by December 31st, 2023. The timeline that Mary and I are under, as soon as we get the okay by both bodies, we're gonna start putting the bid packages together to go out to bid, to get the contractors in to get going right away.
Thank you.
Any question from the board?
Yeah, I read the contract several times. Okay, who really has control over this? I mean, I seen in there, it was said that we would have control from January to June. I mean, but we really didn't have control. If there was any changes, it said you had to give reasonable,
Reasonable notice.
yeah,
And
reasonable notice. What is reasonable notice?
A reasonable notice is a phone call, an email, and the only reason we put in there that notice is because it will be the city that will be preparing the fields for a game. So you guys just need to let us know if you have a game on Tuesday and it's rained out, you know you're gonna play Thursday, could you give me a call Wednesday and say, hey, we're playing there tomorrow? Okay, no problem. Now we have time to get the fields prepped.
So let's fast forward to 50 years from now. And we're all probably not here, but another board might be thinking, what the heck was we doing? Because there's gonna have to be another contract. Okay, I mean, this is $1.8 million. And I figured it out per game, and with maintenance and utilities that you're paying half of, it comes out to about $40,000 a season. And I'm just wondering if we couldn't play in Cleveland Stadium for $40,000 a season. I mean, that was, I guess my problem with this whole thing was we don't end up with anything. It's not that it isn't nice. It's that we end up with nothing tangible for $1.8 million.
So, Mr. Sturgill, the first thing I'd like to address is that.
Mary, if you could do the microphone again, please.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, the first thing I would like to address is that the $1.8 million is with the added-on options. What I talked about was the basic, the added-on options were batting cages, additional parking lot lighting, larger capacity seating, and the softball fields covered seating. Those were add-on options for the $1.8 million. What we were actually looking at is just over $1.2 million. I just wanted to clarify that. So
Yeah, I
that's what we're
seen-
looking at.
I seen to build the two baseball fields on our property came to about 1.3.
Correct.
Okay, which is what you're talking about, something in the same area. But for me, at the end of the day, I don't think anything trumps being able to walk out of your high school, walk 100 yards, and to be on your own field. And I'm not saying that we won't build soccer fields or anything like that. If we're gonna have soccer, you know, there's no reason why Lorain City Schools couldn't do that. And I hope that whichever way this goes, I hope the city still goes through that, because I believe the money that you're investing, if I heard things right, there was a grant applied for, and I'm assuming that the grant went through.
There-
Okay,
There was a grant applied for, which we haven't found out yet. The mayor has committed the money through ARPA funds.
okay.
So if the grant is approved, that would be even more improvements that would be made there.
Could you just say that again? What you said about the money and the grant?
The grant has been applied for, but I want to say, I think we don't get our answer till like March. So the mayor has committed the city's match of funds through ARPA money, which is the COVID money. And then if the grant comes through, that will be even more improvements there.
Well,
Okay, that's, oh, sorry.
one of my questions, and this is what I was thinking of, if the city applied for matching funds, like if it's 1.3, say we're putting in 1.3, the city applied for 1.3 to get 1.3, okay? How much money is the city putting in? Are they just matching our 1.3?
The city's putting in 1.3 immediately to match the school's 1.3, and then if the grant is approved, they will put that 1.3 in it. So then the city would be putting 2.6 into the fields.
My question is, so this is coming from COVID money. COVID money will be gone in 2025. Where will the money come from to continue taking care of the park? Hiring the people that we're hiring, we're gonna hire a crew of, I believe they said 4, am I correct? To take care of it. 2025, the money's gone. We've already seen the park levy fail. And so that's what I worry is, we're gonna put all our money into this. The city then, where does the money come from after 2025? Looking at the other parks, I live about a block away from the softball fields. Those are a mess most of the time. They are mowed the morning of a game. Grass is high. I just worry that we're putting all this money in, those fields are going to look the same after we don't have, once this money is gone, then what happens?
Actual money is to do the improvements,
Uh-huh.
and the city has agreed, starting 2022, we will hire a 4-man crew that will only work at that facility. And
Okay,
with or without COVID money,
okay,
in the budget, there is always approximately $90,000 to hire seasonal 2021, I only had like 4 applications. 19, 20, we didn't do because of COVID. I have already spoke to the athletic director asking, I think it'd be a great opportunity to offer these jobs to high school baseball players because they're off for the summer, so then that would give them a chance to make money, and who better than to take care of fields than baseball players?
Right. And who will take care of them then during the season?
No, we would hire, during the baseball
Yeah,
season,
to take care of.
it's actually the city of Lorain would,
Okay.
but also there is a travel ball league that uses that stadium in the summer, and they actually took care of it for the school in 2021,
Okay.
along with the city.
And if the school doesn't do the other part, is the city still going to do the fields for the younger kids?
Yes,
So the city's still going to do the fields for the younger kids, so we're still helping the other kids?
correct.
Yes. One other question. Are we city going to fix the other baseball fields in the city? For example, the softball fields
And
at Lakeview and like the fields at Oakwood. Will those be fixed also? If we're putting that type of money in these fields, will money be put into those fields as well?
if you look at those fields in the last 3 or 4 years, we've put a lot of money into those fields.
Okay.
We
I'm
had-
just saying the upkeep and everything, because
Yes.
I know, I mean, I can't take my kids to the park at Lakeviews, and that's what I just worry about. Are we going to put as much upkeep money also into the other parks as well as much as we're gonna put into this one park? That's just what I worry is, there's a lot of other parks in the city, that if we're gonna put all kinds of money into one park, we have a lot of parks that a lot of other kids also could frequent if we put some of that money into other fields. So are we fixing other fields or other parks as well, or just one park?
Yes, in 2021, you don't see it yet because everything's ordered, but we're putting $453,000 worth of equipment and improvements in the other city parks. Unfortunately, with the vendors, it's just taking so long. So you'll see all those improvements in May and June of next year at all the other city parks.
Okay. But that's 453,000 over how many, I forget how many parks that were.
Well,
Quite a few
Well,
compared to
actually-
1.3, could be 2.6 into one park at the end of the city when we have many other parks. That's just my question is.
right, but I guess my vision is, I don't consider Campana just a park like other city parks. This is a facility.
Right, and I understand completely. I'm just thinking of the other parks and we're supposed to be helping all the kids, we've been told many of times, and that would be helping more kids also. And so that was my question. Thank you.
So, yeah, first, thank you for the presentation, and I think it's a great opportunity to collaborate. And I think there's just a benefit when we share resources and we pull resources together, and I think we get more for it. I think some of the things about 50 years from now, I don't know what a lot of things are going to look like 50 years from now. This building, 50 years from now is a whole another world, and however many boards that is away, I'm sure there'll be decisions made about this before 50 years. As far as, and I appreciate our questions and our challenges. I think if we want to find out about or challenge the city on upkeep of parks, we should go to the city council meeting and have that conversation with city council. And that might be something that we want to do, to say, hey, we're excited about this partnership. What are we doing in our other parks? And I'm sure there's some master plan or something that they could share with us. And so in your defense, that's a council question probably. Then as it relates to the city's finances, 5 years from now, they drop the levy, we drop the levy. When I look at what happens for us 5 years from now, and I look at our deficit, they should maybe be asking us, how are we gonna hold up maintaining anything that we do? Because if we don't pass a levy, we're going to be laying off teachers, cutting programs, doing a lot of other stuff. So I think for both of us, we're in an opportunity, especially because of what's happened with the ARPA funds, where we wouldn't even be able to have some of these conversations were it not for that windfall of money. And so we appreciate that the city could prioritize the mayor a lot of different things. But they've taken those funds that they have all kinds of needs for, and they've committed them to this. So I think it's an opportunity, along with some other things that are coming up. And since we've had this windfall of revenue into our communities, being able to get this invested in our kids and our parks, and I think so. Yeah, there's some risk involved. There's some huge potential rewards involved, and so I think my colleagues are reasonable in terms of the challenges and in terms of acknowledging these risks. But I advocate for taking the risk because it's a good investment. And I don't think there's any investment that's just purely risk-free. So,
Anything further from the board?
Mr. President, if you don't mind, just very, very quickly. And for me, and I could argue both sides to some degree when it comes to, having one right outside where you could walk up and you get the casual fans who are just walking out of school and stop and watch. And as Mr. Williams pointed out, the benefit of a partnership. And I do understand that, without a doubt, with anything we do, there are risks. But I think the one thing that I think we all struggle with, but I'll speak for me personally, the one thing we struggle with when it comes to things like this with partnerships is control. We lose some control because in a partnership, it's shared responsibility. But I do believe that anytime we have an opportunity to partner with the city, you can't have a great city without great schools, and you can't have great schools without a great city. And I think the more we can do hand in hand, arm in arm, I think the better off the members of our community are going to be. And at the end of the day, same tax dollars, we all serve the same people. And to have an opportunity to make a statement that we're into this together, I think is huge. But without a doubt, we do lose some control, and there are some risks involved.
Anything further from the board?
Would also like to reach out in the audience, if you don't mind, Mr. President. I'd like to recognize Rick Soto and Sanford, Washington from the city. And Sanford, congratulations, you had the better team this year. So good luck in the playoffs.
This meeting just went in the wrong direction. Talking about Michigan.
how about OH?
I'm still paying tuition to Ohio State, so I get it, but yeah.
Is there anything further from any of the board members?
I guess I do have one more question. And I guess I can say this from, I'm not a sports person, I'm not a baseball coach, softball coach, don't play. What do our coaches want? They know our kids, they know our program. I'm not an expert. I don't feel any of us really are the expert on coaching kids, and what do they think that our kids in our program want? I think we've asked that numerous times to hear what the coaches want. And we haven't heard. I mean, I know a committee was made years ago and what they said, but I think Bill and I both have asked, what do the coaches want? What does the softball coach want? What does the baseball coach want? And I guess that would be.
But I tried to, but last time,
well.
I think the three of us met, we had Brian Corey there, we did kind of speak on behalf of the coaches. And Brian, if you could come on up, and if you don't mind, and I know you want to get to a basketball game, but it's just a couple more minutes, I promise. But yeah, the intent, whenever we make any decision in the district, I guess process-wise, and we've tried to be very, very intentional, whether it's our strategic plan, whether it's our exit plan from ADC, where we put baseball fields, what we do with alternative school, how we create a program to teach students with extreme autism, how do we create more space for preschool. We engage the experts and we listen. And what we try to do is listen to all the different perspectives, and then after we have all those perspectives in front of us, then we make a decision based on what everybody thinks is best, and the priorities that we set. But we did engage our coaches. But if you could speak to the results of the conversations that we've had.
Yeah, we compiled information that we gathered from the coaches. Dr. Graham actually led a Zoom that we had with the coaches early on, and just got all their feedback in terms of what they thought. In me speaking with the coaches, they talked about the pros and cons of both situations as we have. In my mind, and I don't think that I can predict one way or another how this is going to turn out, but what I will say is I'm always an advocate for anything that's going to create additional opportunities for our kids. I don't know exactly whether or not that will happen, but the way that the framework of this looks, from what I just gathered, is it potentially is going to create more opportunities for our kids. And I don't mean necessarily the high school team, I'm talking about Lorain City Schools kids. In the end, if that ends up happening, then we'll be better off for it. One of the concerns that I always have is that we neglect to create those additional opportunities. One of the things that I think we as a school district and as a city as a whole need to try to do is create more opportunities for kids. I think we could do a better job of that. I could do a better job of that, all of us. So again, if that is what the end result ends up being, then we're better off as a community.
And I'll just go into, if you could stand by the mic for a couple more seconds and kind of elaborate, because I'm going from memory. When we talked to the coaches, some of their concerns were the cost and the transportation cost and upkeep costs. And those aren't things that necessarily are in their purview. I mean, that's part of what we have to consider. But coaches did talk about the convenience of having it right outside, the convenience of if there's a thunderstorm, you can run inside. But again, the city's talking about, we're talking about putting in a space for that at Campana Park as well. And they talked about the advantage of having casual fans, again, just kind of stroll out of the building and stop and watch baseball games. So those are some of the comments that we had. Some comments were, we just want something to play on. We just want something nice. And so there were, I don't know if they had strong opinions on the where part, but maybe they did. My guess is if you were to take a vote, they were probably leaning toward the convenience of having outside.
Okay, the tough part is okay, and I'm going to speak for not only myself, but for the coaches. When we initially had conversations about having either the field, meaning the baseball and the softball field at Campana Park, or having the baseball and softball field here right outside. We didn't have conversations about an esports center. We didn't have conversations about, what was going to happen with the rest of the complex. That wasn't anything that was even thought of at that time. It was, do we want to have fields here? Do we want to have fields there? Okay. We also, meaning the last time that we had met and we had conversations, it was discussed about, the city potentially doing more and bigger things to those other fields. We were in the infancy stages of that. We didn't really know what that would look like. I didn't even really get a chance to look at the visual, but at this stage. But I would assume that, obviously we're in a different place. Well, not assume. I know that we're in a different place right now with that than we were before. So I think if you wanted to have conversations with the coaches about where you're going to have the fields versus where you're going to have the fields plus potentially have additional opportunities for kids and what that's going to look like, I think it would be a little bit different conversation, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
So what are you saying? Are you
Yeah,
saying
he
you
still
need
isn't
more
giving an
information?
answer.
I didn't understand that. That was like this. So give me an answer. Are you for it? Are they not? Or do you need additional information?
Well, in terms of the coaches, what I can say is I'm not going to speak for the coaches. I don't think the coaches have this information. They don't know. They don't know what we're talking about right here. Our conversations with the coaches were before we got to what you're looking at right here. Again, it was more of the conversations with the coaches were more gathering information about what their concerns were, and will you be able to address those concerns? Okay, what would you rather have based on, okay, just location? I don't think there was any conversations, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad. There were no conversations at the time about location versus along with additional amenities.
Okay.
So I can't really speak to their opinion because they didn't have that information. Nobody did at that time. In terms of like me, for example, I haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that. I couldn't quite see from over there, so I could take a look at that and give you an opinion on it, but I haven't seen it. I mean, it sounds really good. I bet you it looks good, but I haven't had an opportunity to look.
Thank you, and that is
So
the perfect answer.
Just a minute.
Okay, sorry.
What you were saying previously is that you need additional information because the product that you were talking about is not this one. This one has.
No. This is,
This is a facility. You were talking about an area just to have the games at.
I was asked about me trying to say what the coaches' opinions were. It's hard for me to say what the coaches' opinions are. I don't want to speak on the coaches' opinions. I mean, I can have the coach speak on his opinion. He's sitting right here.
Okay.
I mean, now at the same time, he'll be the first one to say,
Okay.
the conversations that were had with him at the time that they were had, okay, were about location.
Okay.
That was it. There wasn't any conversations about location plus. In other words, opinions can change when you say location plus
Facilities and.
all these additional
And summer jobs for the
$1.3 million
kids.
in, yeah, I mean, that, at that time, when we were talking to the coaches, there was no 1.3 versus a potential 2.6 that was even brought into the conversations. So
And
I don't
again,
want to say
The
one way or
purpose of the
another.
conversation we met was, what do you need to coach baseball? What do you
Yeah.
need to coach softball? So those are some of the pieces that we had conversations on, and it did veer toward advantages of the location.
So what do you think now? Just.
And there's nothing new on there that
what
Brian
you
hasn't
got
seen.
So far.
Yeah.
What do you
Except
think?
these
How
sports,
do
maybe.
you feel?
Well, I mean, again, if we are going to create additional opportunity, no matter what we talk about, if we're going to create additional opportunities for our kids that they would otherwise not have, I will always say that the best thing for our kids is to have those additional opportunities. Because in the end, when it comes to whether it be baseball, softball, any sport, okay, those kids playing when they're 5 years old through 12 years old through 14 years old, okay, is what is feeding that program. So if we're able to create better opportunities for those kids, then all of our kids are better off. I mean,
couldn't disagree with you 100%. 100%, I agree with you. I couldn't disagree with you at all. But the problem I have is, we don't know if we're going to get those extra because they don't know if they're going to get that grant. Is there a reason why this
That's
has
not
to
true. They
be
just stated,
voted?
Not true.
they're investing the match
Right.
up front. If they get, then after that, if they get the grant, they will add that to it.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
But
so
Tim, I
it's,
know that. I'm saying,
Are we debating this or what?
yeah, that's, I guess,
I guess that's what this
maybe
is.
we just
Well,
don't
I
have
mean,
enough information.
Okay.
I guess I don't know
I'm
why
with
we're
you.
rushing into a vote and we haven't even told the coaches all the information. Why are we rushing into a vote right now? It's not something, we're not gonna have these fields built for him to coach that baseball team next year. So what is the point of us rushing into this vote until we get them the information? Let us hear what they have to say once they have the information. And once we know, are we gonna get this grant? Because if, and I could be wrong, she said they're putting $1.3 million into the fields and the concession stand for the younger kids. If they get the extra grant money of $1.3 million, they will put in soccer fields and possibly esports. If they don't get that grant, they're not putting in the soccer fields.
please let her
Am I
talk for
wrong?
herself. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
I'd just like to clarify.
Please, thank you.
With the 1.3 million, everything that's on that board right there and everything in the agreement, which I think you all have a copy of, is going in, which includes all the soccer fields.
Okay.
Rehabbing every youth baseball field, the concession stand, the restrooms. I said, if we get the grant, then we can look into
To the
adding
esports.
the esports.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have that information before, and I just don't understand why we're rushing into the vote still without talking to the coaches and giving them this information. I don't see what the point is before we give everybody the information. I guess that's my feeling.
Is there anything further from any of the board members? You have anything further?
On
Is
that
that-
piece, I do not. Real quick, though, and are you doing this? Is AJ here?
Yep.
Oh, there she is, I'm sorry.
Where's your line item on this one, on this piece here?
10.03.
Are you gonna make that as an individual?
What are we on?
Before, yeah, we have one more, thanks, Brian, yeah, I know you got to dash out. Go Titans.
You want- Okay, you need
Yep.
it. Okay.
During my section here, we were talking about, there was a request to see a copy of the medical buses that we're creating. AG, can you walk us through it?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
In front of you on the board, to my right, your left, is the design from MOS, the Mobile Operations Outreach Solutions, is the design from the medical buses, the new that we're going to be having. And so as you can see, we do have 2 rooms on either side. In the middle is where you will be able to get on board. It will be a reception area, and on either side you will be able to be serviced. On the outside would be 2 awnings, so you would be able to be seen on the outside. Someone would be able to have a laptop to be able to see people if necessary. So we met on yesterday to finalize a few things with Mercy Hospital. In January, we will be walking through the actual bus. We'll be laying down some carpet to have a more visualization. So if anyone is wanting to go out and look at the bus, they're going to mark some things off with some tape so we can have a more visual, conceptual look at things, and then we're going to start putting some things in place.
Very exciting. Do we have a timeline yet?
Almost.
The reason I ask is, I guess typically when they do these buses, when they convert them, whether to food service or to a medical health van, it's 21 days from the time they start to the time they're done.
Yeah.
Because of just post-COVID stuff, there's big delays in some of the, I think the generator is 30 weeks. Foam, I guess, is a shortage of foam. But there's a couple things that are going to slow things down. But working pretty closely with Mercy Health, and even though they've had some turnover in leadership, folks are still very excited to partner with us and continue to grow these pieces. So again, the whole idea is that we're serving our families, not just at Washington Clinic, but after school and where our families are, to make sure that they have their medical needs met.
Yes.
Any questions for Dr. Alexander Johnson?
No. Thank you. Is there an update on the other buses or the other bus? Or-
I think this one went first, right?
That one
this
is
one's
first, and then we will be meeting on next week to talk about the food clinics bus.
And the buses have already been purchased, stripped down, and we're in great shape.
Yep.
Mary, so you're jumping up and down. We had 5 of them, right? Yep.
I just wanted to say that, yes, we will have the other 5 on site, I'm hoping within the next week.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. All righty. Would you like me to pull 10.03?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. And so I'll pull it separate then. I'd like the board to consider for approval item 10.03, which is the contract with the city on baseball.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
10.03 is
Is
music.
it 10.02?
2.
Yeah, 10.03 is music.
I've got, mine's 10.03.
Sometimes the communiques don't always match.
Yeah, mine's
All
2.
right, give me 1 second.
Oh, no, that's 10.0. Yeah, 10.0, he said 10.0.
Yep, 10.02, thank you. Mine is not aligned.
You ready for
What?
roll call?
I think he's gonna make a different motion.
Yep, I'd like the board to consider for approval item 10.02, which is the contract with the city for baseball.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
No.
Mr. Sturgill, no.
Anything further?
Yep, I'd like the board to consider for approval items 10.01, 10.02, and 10.04 through 10.12.
Should be 1-3.
I'm sorry, I screwed it up again. Thank you. Let me try that one more time.
10.01.
10.01. Let's just do it that way. I'd like the board to consider for approval item 10.01, operations matters.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Move.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
2. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval items 10.04, I'm sorry, 10.03 through 10.12.
So
Roll.
moved.
Okay, who was the second?
Second?
Okay, Ms. Nazario.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval item 9.01 to 9.07, personnel matters.
So moved.
9.01 to 9.07.
Second?
Any discussion?
Mr. Johnson, Nazario. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
And,
Mr. Sturgill, yes. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
okay, and in terms of the baseball fields, I'll make sure that we continue to engage our coaches and gain feedback, and again, if there are changes that need to be made, obviously, we have time to make those. Just last side note, and again, I'm a little confused because it was going to be our second last board meeting, then it was going to be our last board meeting, but we may have another board meeting between now and the end of the year. But I'd like to take a couple seconds. Yes, sir?
Sorry, before-
Yeah, please.
I think we need to walk on a motion regarding the CEO contract. Walk on a,
Yep, I would like the board to consider for approval, this is Mr. Giardini's language, I'd like the board to consider for approval item 9.08, which is giving the board authority to enter into a contract with the superintendent to begin in July of 2022, in a manner that is, with the salary and benefits are consistent with the current CEO contract.
I think
CEO in the contract, right?
the wording
hear
is,
that.
is it CEO or superintendent?
I'm sorry, superintendent's contract. But the superintendent contract to align with the salary and benefits of the CEO contract.
So moved, as stated.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
If I could just elaborate for the folks in the audience. The current law that allows us to get out of academic distress, should we meet certain criteria, the board gets their authority officially back, and hopefully you can see that we're trying to operate in a manner that's consistent with how healthy organizations operate. But the board formally gets their authority back in July of 2022. So what the state has allowed is for the board to enter into an agreement with their current CEO, should they want that CEO to continue on as superintendent in July of 2022. The reason those decisions are made now are because in our line of work, educators, typically if you're looking for a job, you do so in the spring. So you apply for jobs in March or April, then you interview, you're offered a job in the spring to start August 1st. So if the board chooses not to engage their superintendent, their CEO as a superintendent in July of 2022, it's too late for that person to find a job. And that person, that situation is me. So
And the other part of
thank the
that
board for
is,
that, yes.
because our academic plan for escape was approved on December 6th,
Correct.
that started a 15-day window by which we have to make this decision.
Correct.
So that's kind of why we had to have our council here, because that hourglass has started and we have a few days left on that.
So again, it temporarily grants the board authority to enter into this agreement for next year. So thank you. And again, thank you for your support. In advance, I guess you haven't voted yet, so.
So roll call vote on it?
Roll call. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
sneeze covered my yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Ms. Nazario?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill? Yes.
Okay, now back to my comments real quick. I'm going to take off my mask here. I got a hair or a string tickling me. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is our last board meeting or not, because we got some things to take care of between now and the end of the calendar year. But I think we're considering anyway canceling the December 28th meeting, just based on the fact that it's over the holiday break and we don't anticipate it being a very full agenda. But I just want to take a couple seconds to thank some board members who have been serving since I returned, and I get one that's been here since I started the first tour. And I just want to say thank you. And again, people don't become board members for the money or the glory, and some do it for personal agendas. And I'm just blessed to be in a district where we've got 5 sitting at the table now and 2 are starting up in December who don't have those personal agendas. And you can see from the discussions and debates that it's important to bring your own perspective to the table. And again, a 3-2 vote, not ideal, but appropriate. And what I mean by that is, if every board member was supposed to agree with every other board member, we'd only need 1. And if every board member was supposed to agree with the superintendent, we wouldn't need any. So I think these debates are healthy, and again, kind of shed some lights on ways we can improve moving forward and making sure that the 5 of you have the information you need. So I appreciate that. But I want to, again, thank Yvonne for her time on the board, and our paths didn't cross for very long, but I want to thank you for your leadership and how you modeled priorities. I know that you've dealt with some personal issues taking care of your dad, and you did what you could here because it was a high priority, but you also acknowledged and lived by the fact that family comes first, and I just want to thank you for that. Tim, we've been doing this now for off and on for six or 7 years, and spent probably more time during my time away from the district, sitting down working on issues as we do the time we are. And I remember actually the first true conversation that we had one-on-one. We were on the phone, and you warned me that things may not be good because something popped up in the paper, and there was some turmoil and some strife. And candidly, I'm not sure how I would have reacted if it wasn't for our conversation. We had a nice long conversation, and it was one that not only made me feel comfortable and welcomed, but very quickly at home. And we've had many conversations about many things. And I just want to thank you for your depth of almost mystical wisdom and your analogies of things which make things just crystal clear in terms of how to weed away all the noise and just focus on the true issue. And I thank you for your mentorship, friendship, and I appreciate what you bring to the board and the leadership that you'll continue to provide, even though you won't have a name tag in front of you. So thank you for that. And as we also have something somewhere, I think Mark moved the bags, and just a real, and we also have Titan gear coming again, but we planned on it being on the 28th, so it's just not here yet, so I'll have to track you down and get it to you. But just a very small token of our appreciation for a very thankless job, so.
This is a surprise, you guys. You know this is a surprise.
I think you are blue.
Thank you.
And I think,
Thank you very much.
I believe, Ms. Yvonne, you had some remarks you wanted to make?
Yes. I need to say this to the community. This is my time to say goodbye, and I just feel so sad on doing it because this is a lot more that I wanted to do, but I found a poem that I don't know who wrote it, but it seems like it's for me. And it says, my desire change. There was once a time I wondered, were folks pleased with me or not? And should I find they weren't, I was bothered quite a lot. In all I did and all I said, I hoped folks would agree, all agree. And to meet with disapproval had a bad effect on me. It just made me so unhappy. It filled my heart with dismay. And when some find fault with what I did or things I had to say, when somebody criticized me, my poor world would nearly end. And for days I felt so moody, for my spirit would amend. So I tried a bit to cater, and some of you knew that. But I found that that had a bad feeling, and it was bad business for me. While pleasing some, I found that I had made some others mad. So I quit the catering business. I quit it altogether. With the line, I'm strictly through, 'cause I found no matter how I pleased, I couldn't please all people, and that is something no one can do. Then one day, a wonderful student asked me so softly and kindly, he said, do you work for folks or you work for me? Now, no longer do I worry if folks judge me right or wrong, as you can see from the vote tonight. Striving only for the knowledge, I am pleasing some students and some community people at sight. So long as I can know I'm right in the minds of some people, some community people, and some students, I'll not fret because of people who have judged me and my ways unwise, with the blessed joy of knowing that I did please some students and some community people. I can bear their scorn, and I can bear it with a smile. And thank you so much. It has been a privilege. I have learned so much. It has been interesting. And if I could, I would continue, but at this time, I cannot. But thank you so much, because I feel like I have been blessed that I have served on this board with these people. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, so first, thank you to, I don't know who to say first. You know, I want to thank my family because it's a lot for them to endure. Just the time and the intensity, the stress. And I commend all of my colleagues because there's a lot that goes with it, but it is so well worth it. And so I thank my family for their support. In terms of the community, for a certain amount of confidence they've placed in us to be the best stewards we can be. Sometimes we're better at that than other times, but our intention, I think, is always noble and true. So it's strange for me because Bill is my board buddy. Now, my family has called him my board husband. And so we started this journey together. And quite honestly, in all of our conversations, we expected we were going to end it together. And so thank you, Bill, for continuing on without me. And I was really challenged because I knew this meeting was going to be pretty intense. And the biggest challenge in my head, honestly, was Bill and I were going to disagree. And I don't know that in 12 years
I don't think we ever have.
to disagree. So that's kind of, but I think the challenge is it makes the memory much longer and more lasting. But our relationship has been so fulfilling, personally, professionally, your family, my family, your grandkids and my kids going to school together. So anybody in the community who wants to serve, this is an amazing place to serve. And the relationships that you build and the trust that you share and the responsibility is a wonderful thing. So thank everyone for allowing me that. And to my other colleagues, it's been a real pleasure to serve with you all, and to this administration, and to the staff and the students. The Lorain family is an amazing group of people. And so it's been an honor. And I won't be coming to board meetings. I'll show up every now and then, but again, my pledge is to support this board and their work on behalf of our students and our families and our staff. There's always criticism, but know that I think the support is what's most needed. And so I'm Titans all the way. Go Titans. And it was great to get another contract. I wish we could have said 5 years or something added to that. But Dr. Graham, Jeff, my friend, you're an amazing person, and your leadership is just, your thumbprints all over the place. So keep doing that great leadership work, and we'll be here to support you.
Okay, before we break this up, I do have one more item on the agenda. So to allow maybe Mr. Williams and Mr. Sturgill an opportunity to vote similarly. We had, the mask issue was on the agenda, it's supposed to be on for November, never made it. We've got a few days left of school before break. My recommendation is to keep the mask policy as is until after break. And then we'll meet and talk about it again if you like. But I do have one question, and again, to be discussed here at the board. The question is, for example, basketball games. What is do we trust people to mask up if they need masked, or do we require masks at basketball games? And wrestling meets, so indoor activities.
What is the process now?
Right now, if you're in the building, you're wearing a mask.
And just based on the uptick, I'm very concerned with the uptick in COVID spread that we're having right
variant's a
now.
scary
So
one.
I'm
Yep.
not sure, without us having any medical professionals here to kind of give us some guidance or anything that's come from the county health department, if we should change that today, if we're going to take a look at it again come January, would be my thoughts. You guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think with what we have in terms of in our environment, we've had a certain amount of control and we've been able to monitor things. I think these other spaces where we have lots of general public in, there's even less knowledge of behavior. So in those indoor spaces, from everything that we're hearing, is we're now going to go indoors and it's just going to be more
And our events are
challenging.
crowded.
Yeah.
I think, excuse me, I went and watched the basketball game. And the biggest challenge was we put out an edict that everybody's gonna wear a mask and they're gonna wear it, you want them to wear it correctly. And the hard part is the enforcement of
You
it,
can't police it. Yeah.
okay? And and that's just what I think. I think that we put the policy out there, but I don't know that we police it that hard. Okay, because we're driving
Agreed.
people nuts, and people know that they should do it, and if they choose to get sick, I mean, I can't, I mean, I don't want anybody to get sick. You know, I want the policy, I think the policy that we have right now should remain in place. I think that, I don't think that the people that we have enforcing it should be pushing it that hard. I just think that people should know that they should be wearing it. And then we reassess after the first year, because I'm watching the numbers too. And I'm watching it go up, and I think it's the seasonal, and with the other variant coming, we don't really know what's gonna happen. So I say that's where I would be on it.
Is there anything
Anyone
further on that? So we need,
Thoughts?
No, I agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
do we need a
With that?
motion?
As many
Because, hey, I'd like to make a motion to keep the mask policy as is, and we discuss it at the organizational meeting.
What's the number on that?
That'd be 10.13 operation matters.
11 point.
Mine's
Mine's 11.01.
Was it on there? Okay,
11.01.
gotcha. 11.01.
What is it?
I know she had a
11.01.
contract, or to the,
Did we get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
No further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes.
ended on a good note.
Not
I've
quite
got one
over
more
yet.
thing.
I was
I've
gonna
got
say
one more thing
that.
I'd like to mention. There was a death that I think that was fairly big in our community. Most of us will know him, Jeff, you probably won't, but Jim Bubbles Harris passed away. And I went to grade school with him, and him and his brother were friends of mine, and he was one of the, you'd probably consider the best basketball player to come out of Lorain. And he was, he was a good person, a good man, a good friend. Okay, and actually Yvonne is like an almost relative, so would you like to say something about him?
Yes, my parents and Bubba's parents, Bubba Harris, I've known them all my life. My mother and father, they double dated. Those are the couples that they ran around with, and both of them were beauticians, and my mother was a beautician. So as far as I can remember, 6 years old, they have been in and out of each other's lives until both of them passed. And we admired Bubba because he took care of them, and he did that for his parents. Now, his only sister is Wilma, and she lives in Washington, D.C. So if anybody does not know this, they found Bubba passed in his apartment by himself. And so everything, and that was like almost a week ago. So everything is sort of on hold because the sister had to come from Washington, D.C. Somebody had to inform her that she was the sister. They had to find all this out. So Carter's Funeral Home, that's my cousins, I like to say that, they're on Elyria Avenue, and they have charge of the service. But at this time, it's incomplete. And as soon as they find out, they will, because we're getting calls from people in foreign countries that have been played with him and that have gone on and done other things that have met him. People that are in the States that are athletes that want to know when the service is. So as soon as we get it, we'll tell the coach and we'll tell our CEO, and then he can disperse the information.
We'll get the information out. Thank you. And I'm sorry for your losses.
Okay. And just before we close, I'll ask Coordinator Bill, did you guys have anything further to say to our possibly departing, if this is the last meeting, board members? You good?
Do I have anything to say?
I don't know if you, because you looked like you were going to grab the mic before we went on to that mask mandate. I don't know if you wanted to.
I was
Say
tearing.
something.
I thought so, okay.
Bill, say something.
Okay.
Say something.
I mean, for me, I think the best part of this is the friends that I've made along the way. I mean, Tim knows I consider him my real friend. And when things happen in my life, he's always there. So I'm going to miss it.
Courtney, you have anything or nothing?
No, it was great learning from them as they were on before and I just stepped in.
Really helped.
Amen.
Mark, can I say something? Real quick?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
I'll never forget, I was in Tim's office at the church when he proposed to me about being on the ADC. Not proposed to me in a different way.
At the church.
And
Voice
At the church.
want to clarify that. But I remember Tim saying, if you go and take on this responsibility of being on the Academic Distress Commission, you'll never go back to just being a teacher. And the experience of being on the ADC the last 4 years or however long it's been, and the journeys that we've all kind of been on, and to Columbus and these meetings and that meeting, whatnot. But it's been a pleasure working with you, Yvonne, a pleasure working with you as well. I think we did ourselves proud to kind of move that needle and make the changes that we all wanted to see change. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with both of you over this course of time. So.
Thank you for that. And is there anything further from the public? I think we've got our next hearing of the public.
I want to thank you, Mr. Williams and Ms. Johnson, for your service. Both of us haven't always seen eye to eye, but we can always meet with kids first, and I thank you both. I also want to thank everybody that made the Winter Wonderland a success. Boy, was it amazing.
Thank you,
seeing
Barbie. Thank you.
all
For,
of those
again, it was on my
smiles.
notes and I just skipped it, so thank you for bringing that up.
There was so much tonight. There was so many smiles, and boy, we didn't expect that many to show up. And it was just a great, with community, and so many people really made it a success, and I can't wait to see what we do next time. Thank you so much, and thank you again. We can't wait. Keep coming back. Maybe not Tim so much. I know I'll see you at those volleyball games because you still show up for them, and I thank you for that.
And I'd like to thank Barbie for her leadership in that night. It was, and the way I described it was like Black Friday. I was outside watching just hordes of people go in. And I think I got nothing but phenomenal feedback by all the things that happened. And again, I didn't do it. There was a group of others. But the only thing in terms of better next time is we need more space. So next time we plan on opening up the gyms and spreading out a little bit more. And I think Carnival might be the next theme. Is that what I heard, Barbie?
I'm not sure, but let's go. Next
All right,
month.
let's make it happen. So again, thank you. It was a great event.
And we have one more.
Hi, my name is Robert Gant. I'm not new for this area. I'm not new to this area. I've been in this area quite a while, Lorain County here. My parents Lily Mae Kaywood, I don't know if anyone know him. Brothers, James West, Brian Parks, Willie West is a pretty well-known basketball player in this area also. I'm the last soldier here. They're all passed away. So I do have other relatives that's, abroad, New York and Canada. But I said that to say, I'm pretty sure quite a few of us have relatives that's gone on. And they were smart. Some of them were really intelligent. So what I'm trying to tell you is these people that you love, there's nothing else you could do with their ideas. Their ideas are gone now. And so what I wanted to present to you now is an idea that's here at the present time. And I'd like to know if my program could be, see, I'm kind of, this is the first time me, coming to the board here. But my program, I'd like to know if it could be implemented into this school system here in Lorain. So far, I have 5 families that reads for me. They're heard over 93.7 FM over the radio. 3 of the girls, when they first started, they couldn't read that good at all. Right now, they're doing very well. One of the girls, she's like too old now. So my program started from 5 years old to 12. The Clearview Queen, she was also one of my readers. Okay, so I'm asking if this program be implemented into this system here.
I'm sorry, what is the name of this program?
It's Care About People is where I'm registered as.
Could you say it again?
Care About People.
Okay.
And Care About People, I have an umbrella. Under my umbrella is Kids Corner, and that's the program that's doing the reading. That the kids read bedtime stories and you hear it over the air. So in this program, what I've witnessed is, I have pretty much helped the teachers because I get to edit this and I get to see, what their problems are. What they stutter on, what words they can't pronounce. So, and I have a chance, I could text the teachers, I could let the teachers know that this word or these things they need to work with. Or, so when you get a classroom of 20, 30-something kids, the teacher probably won't get a chance to know that kid can't say that certain word. So I get to know what that word is, or whoever I got helping me edit. So I'm asking that this program somehow be edited or be implemented into the school.
And Robert, can we chat after the board meeting? And I just want to, obviously we need to learn more before we can just implement a program.
I understand
but can we
that.
sit and just get some contact information tonight, and then we'll sit down and learn more later?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope to be more prepared. Hopefully if I could come before you in another meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I would add, as a parting, to the parting board members, wow, we've had quite a journey. Lots happened over these 4 years. Lots happened over these terms that we've been in. Trips to Columbus, trips to Youngstown, and fights and the hugs and the defeats and the wins and the almost made it, didn't quite make it, kind of a journey. And for the time that I've been here, and you guys have entrusted me to be your leader and try to guide this ship as we've done, I appreciate your trust and loyalty and respect. and really being able to fall in line and in that guidance. And when I was wrong, making me pump the brake and change course, and always being willing to listen and then give a different perspective. And we'll come up with a program that kind of works for our district. And I think some of the best work we've done was bringing the administration that we currently have, because I think we have the best administration in the state of Ohio. I really feel that way. And I put them on the court with anybody, 5-on-5, we'll take them. I really feel that way, and that was under you all's leadership. I think the entire state of Ohio owes a debt of gratitude to this board and this community that have changed things that have happened in education here in Ohio. And I think I'm looking forward to going on with the new board, but today is you all's day. So one day, Tim, we'll tell the story on how you really ran for board, right? We'll tell the story on how that really happened, because it's a real fun story. You should put it in a book. You should put it in a book because it changed a lot of lives here after, from that pivot. And, with your dad, I understand the love that you have for your dad and the love you have for family. And nobody could ever challenge the decisions that you've had to make, but even making the sacrifices and playing the dual roles and getting, sometimes having to leave early because duty calls, right? And I've got mom duty now, so I clearly understand how that works. I just want to say from the board, from our community, thank you all for putting in and putting it all on the line. And I know you guys get those calls like we all do late at night, and there's usually opposing sides and views, and you have to kind of decipher and do what you think is best for our kids and our community. So thank you for your support. Thank you for everything you've done for this community. And I think you guys deserve a hand in your parting ways. Thank you all. Seeing nothing else, our next board meeting is scheduled for the 28th at 5 o'clock here. We will see if that happens. There's still some moving parts happening in the background with a lot of things. Yeah. Did you have anything today, or are you just up here making us all look better?
That's it.
I love it. Appreciate it. Very good. Seeing that, guys, we need a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, yes.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. And there's refreshments over there, and don't make me eat all those cookies by myself, please. Everyone's welcome.